Are you 50 or older? This news is for you. The CDC now recommends you get vaccinated against pneumococcal pneumonia. Even if you're healthy, your age puts you at risk. People 50 or older are over 6 times more likely to be hospitalized with pneumococcal pneumonia compared to adults 18 to 49. Just one shot can help protect you. Learn more and schedule at vaxassist.com. That's VAXassist.com. Sponsored by Pfizer.
The best late-night conservative talk show in America, Jackassery Radio. And listen, there are no people better on the air to give you the best in conservative talk than Sackhead Sean and Sackhead Clint. And we're working on the immigration papers for a certain other guy who happens to work here, too. For those who are tuning in around the world to the best in late-night conservative talk, Jackassery Radio.
Radio. Radio.
The best late-night conservative talk show in America. In America.
And in this web was a large, I'm pretty sure it was the biggest spider I've ever seen.
And welcome to the Sackheads Radio Show on the 22nd of June, 2016. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
To the amazing Wednesday afternoon lineup we have here on SHR Media.
Oh, I misspoke.
You know, on Wednesdays,
again, I misspoke.
We now have Dan Butcher, who's starting our afternoon off with Agador, and then we have just everybody. Our entire Wednesday afternoon lineup, all live.
Yeah.
Jamming. I mean, we're just jamming here. It's pretty impressive. So thank you so much to everybody. And thank you, Clint.
You're welcome, Sean.
For actually making it here in time.
You're welcome. You know what? And I appreciate the recognition. And you know what else I appreciate? Is the trophy. I come in today, and there is like literally, it's like a 3.5 foot trophy, for me. Because I actually made it into work on time.
It doesn't happen often.
So no, and so look, you're taking a play out of the millennial playbook, and recognizing me for mediocrity.
Yes.
And look, I appreciate that, and it drives me to mediocrity.
It does.
It really does. I mean, I have so many of these trophies. Honestly, just because I
putting the lid down.
Yeah,
gave you that one.
Yeah, you gave me the put the lid down one.
Yep.
You gave me. Oh, I found the power button.
You did. That was a big day for all, really.
Yeah. So you gave me a trophy.
It wasn't on anything important. It was actually on the printer. But you know what? I give you credit. Something turned on.
Right. And
that doesn't happen for you a lot
at all. Yeah, very, very much at all. Wait, how many kids do I have? Never mind. It's not important. Look.
7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
That I know of. I have. It's funny because it's true.
The year's still young. Don't go pushing it. And we're fortunate enough that we have an in-studio guest.
We do.
You know him from bloviatingzeppelin.com, BZ, who's sitting in with us in studio. He's going to tolerate the Sackheads this evening. Good evening to you, sir.
Oh, thank you kindly. Nice studio. I like it.
See, you know how many people who haven't seen it think it's fake when we talk about our studio? Like they think we're riding around.
Hang on. People are going to think that he's on payroll, or that he's like just somebody that we've known. I mean,
thanks for the check. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome. High class here, as you can tell.
Wait a minute. If you're getting a check, I want one too, because I have yet to get mine.
Well, it's not really a check. Isn't it called a stipend? I get a stipend.
And the check, you haven't tried to cash it yet.
This is true.
Good
we
point.
gave it in hand tonight, and he's not allowed to leave until we're done.
Right. It might be from a closed account. I don't know.
And the funny part of it is it says Schmackheads Radio. And we wrote it on the back of a coffee cup. So,
which is legal, by the way. It
legal
has all
tender
the,
as long as you recognize it to be so.
Absolutely.
And you can write my check on a mattress blanket for all I care, as long as it cashes. No, it is. It's a very nice studio.
Oh, thank
I like
you.
it.
I you know what? It's home to us. It's become very comfortable to us, and we have a lot of fun here, and a lot of magic is happening.
It's kind of retro. Like this, some of this furniture
is totally
so
70s.
retro. It's porn.
It is porn.
It's like 70s porn.
The red in the walls, the exposed rafters,
the shag carpet,
that I love.
Yeah, the pleather chair that you're sitting in.
I'll tell you what. This was a friend of ours' grandfather's. This was his studio for his office for years.
For years, yep.
And he never changed it because he was successful. Yeah. And I think he was one of those guys that if it ain't broke, you don't fix it.
Right.
I particularly like the dual level purple and green shag carpeting.
Yes, thank you. Look, there's a lot of people that don't appreciate that. Look, I've tied several women up and taken them here to show them. I didn't say that out loud. What I meant was other guests
occupied their time.
Right. Other guests that we forcibly had in here, like Sacco, they don't appreciate the carpet as much.
Avocado is a great color.
It is. And look, honestly, let's be real. It makes pulling forensic evidence very, very difficult.
Oh, hell.
Right?
You get great contrast.
Exactly. For all of our listeners,
so what you're saying is don't bring an alternate light source in here.
Yeah, ever.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Right. There's alternate enough in here every time Sean walks in. Anyways, it's what?
Hey, ¿qué pasó? Hey, couple housekeeping things. We are now officially on SoundCloud.
Hang on a second. First of all, you have to wear the housekeeping outfit.
Again?
If you're going to talk about housekeeping things. Yes.
Okay.
And we have to have the webcam on.
Absolutely.
I like the hose. You know what I find particularly appealing is, well, not the pumps. The pumps, all right, but the black seam on the back of the hose, very engaging.
Very engaging, right?
Very.
Yeah, and what's weird is look at, I know you think that those are like little Christmas ribbons, like but that's actually his tattoo on the back of his thighs. Those are bow tattoos on the back of his thighs.
We may not get to a show tonight.
This is the show. What are you talking about? By the way, if you're going to Freedom Fest,
yes,
we may have a competition. If you remember last year, we had Shave Sacco.
Yes,
and
which went over really well.
It went over very well. We're actually going to have a dress up Sean, and there's going to be lipstick and wigs and nylons, pantyhose, razors. So
Isn't
a dress
that an
up
action
dress
figure.
up
I think
Sean.
you can get it in Walmart. Can't you? Action
may be
Sean.
able to.
Well, if anyone's ever
Action
followed me
Sean.
on Twitter or Facebook, they know I am all about shameless self-promotion.
Right.
So I'm probably not going to argue at this point.
No. And the props are going to include gag ball.
Oh,
yeah. Those,
I didn't want to go there.
And sports. Look, sports are going to include pegging and what? Look, Google pegging with your safe search off, so you know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
No,
yes.
don't do that. Don't do that.
Oh, now all of a sudden you care about our listeners.
Okay, yeah, you totally should do that.
So like Pulp
Mary,
Fiction.
don't do that because I love you.
Yes, Mary, our
Mary,
number one listener.
don't.
No, sweetheart. So we are
like
on
Pulp Fiction. Bring in the gimp.
Wake him up. Question from the chat rooms already. Will Sacco be in Vegas? I believe we've worked it out. Sacco said he's going to come out for a couple days and join us because, all joking aside, as everyone knows, we love Sacco. We miss Sacco.
Look, believe it or not, Sacco is still owner and partner in this
so we have to be nice
venture.
to him.
We have to be nice to him. I mean, he's literally 33% of the opera. Well, he's not. He's 33% of the like paper holder.
Right.
But he's 0% of the operation at this point.
Yeah, no, we've cut him out. If the he's cut us out.
We couldn't cut him out because of the vote thing.
Right.
But
every time we voted, it was 2-1, but we didn't have enough to put it over the top.
Right.
It was weird.
Right.
We kept trying.
It has to be unanimous.
It has to be unanimous.
But what's weird is I was the one voting for him to stay.
Right. He was voting for him to go.
Right.
He was
and we're just screwing with him at this point. Because sometimes I'm the vote to keep him in, and sometimes you're the vote to keep him in.
He couldn't get out
which
if he
makes
tried.
it funny.
So, to go back to what I was saying originally.
Yeah, sorry, I don't remember.
We're officially on SoundCloud now, so you can catch all the shows of SHR Media, including the Sackheads Radio Show, on SoundCloud as well. Thank you to everyone into the chat room. If you're listening and not in the chat, go to shrmedia.com. Click on the live chat button, and you can jump in. We do have a lot of topics to get to this evening. It's already been a whopping 9 minutes, and Clint's already up and out of his chair because it's like working with a child sometimes.
Now, hang on a second. First of all, you're breathing so heavy and blowing so much damn hot air while you're over there running that hole under your nose that it gained like 12 degrees of temperature in here in a matter of like that 9 minutes.
Well, it's 100 degrees
talking.
outside.
And so I had to turn the AC on. It was nice and cool when we walked in and you weren't saying too much. The second you start running that suck, the thing, we overheat.
I was thinking it was the amount of air that came in through your nose.
No, because that would cool it.
And then you blew
that would
out.
Cool it. It's like filtering.
We ready to get to work or what? Cause
notice the time on the board. It says 2015-ish.
I know, but
are we within the ish window?
Here's the deal. With the third party in here.
Mm-hmm.
That's the heat.
He's bringing the heat, folks. With the third party in here and all these topics that you know we're going to run long on no matter what anyhow. I'm just saying.
So, okay, the first topic I want to get to is the Modern Stamp Act Revolt. Have you heard about this?
No.
Why are you laughing?
Because this is one of those topics that you tell me nothing about on purpose.
It's Surprise Sean.
It is Surprise Sean. And I love these segments. But as we're sitting down and we're prepping the show and everything, I look over at the board and we all bring our different topics in. And I see Modern Stamp Act Revolt. And I said, Clint, what the hell is that? And you just smiled and looked away and kept writing. So I, too, am hearing this for the first time, folks.
Look, that may be true. That may be true.
Oh, are you talking about Maine?
I'm talking about Maine.
Oh,
yes.
Right.
Now you're on it, right?
Yes, okay.
See, the intelligent people know what we're talking about.
Right. You're talking about the governor, right?
Hey, I'm number one. Both of us are. Look, thanks, Sean.
That's awesome.
Is that your IQ or number of white parents? Anyways,
Oh, sorry.
there you go. Thanks.
Ken, I'm sorry. For my part.
Ken, I apologize for the way Sean insulted and meant that, even though I took it as such. So
tell me about the Stamp Act, my friend.
Governor LePage.
Yes.
Maine Governor LePage.
Yes.
Is talking about revolting over the food stamp program for the federal government. He's trying to ban food stamp recipients in his state from buying like candy bars, soda, Mountain Dew, and so forth, with federally funded dollars. Basically arguing that money should be used for sustenance and other things, which I agree with him. And he's talking about this. He does this after the Obama administration tells him no. So he applies for a waiver to ban candy and soda pop and so forth from this program, basically wanting the tax dollars used for something that's actually going to do good. And the Obama administration said no. They can basically buy whatever the hell they want. And the governor was citing Maine's diabetes rates and obesity rates that are just basically through the roof. And he says if they're not going to assist with this, then we're just going to ban the stamp program altogether. And he's saying, look at how can the administration be going through great lengths to institute all these controls over food that people eat, particularly in the school lunch program and so forth. And how is it that New York and all these liberals want to put soda tax and all this other stuff and charge people and penalize them for choices they make and force public schools to serve certain menus and so forth, and yet they're just going to have a double standard and allow people who are receiving this food stamp entitlement to purchase it when they're trying to control the narrative for everything else. I think it's a brilliant argument.
I think it's a brilliant argument.
So first of all, he calls it a crackdown. So my first question is the term crackdown racist?
Yes. Cracker down.
Oh, good point.
Yeah.
Because I've been to Maine.
Right? I've been to Maine also.
A lot.
And so is he saying that people that refer food stamps use crack cocaine
on a regular basis,
and therefore he is now cracking down? Another thing he said is he wants to crack down on sugar. Was he referring to the local pimp? Or was he in fact talking about
Sugar Bear,
the food stamp program?
Which actually you could say Sugar Bear in Maine. There's a lot of Maines up there.
Okay,
bears rather.
So this is kind of the discussion point.
I think that's a very valid discussion to bring up so far. First of all, let me say something about Maine. Growing up in Boston, not far from Maine, spent a lot of time in Maine growing up. The running joke is, how do you know the toothbrush was invented in Maine? The answer is because if it was invented anywhere else, it'd be called the teeth brush. So,
nice.
I can understand why the Maine governor is concerned about the well-being of his constituents. Listen, just like everything else we see in the federal government, there's no consistency, right?
Right.
You have Michelle Obama's food initiative in school programs where these kids are essentially getting made to eat tofu and other crap that they don't want to eat. And I don't care who you are. If you don't if you know children at all, if you don't give them something, a little something to entice them to eat between the ages of 5 and 13, once, especially boys, once they hit 13, they'll eat the carpet if you let them. But at those young ages,
there's a joke in there somewhere.
Yeah. And when you said that, I started looking down.
Yeah. So there's a joke in there, and I was going to agree with you because I remember when I turned 15, I wanted to eat as much carpet as I could, even though I maybe couldn't at that particular time.
Anywho, but between the ages of 5 and 13, you got to give kids food that they will actually want to eat. I can remember growing up, you had pizza day, all these different things. They didn't taste amazing, but it wasn't this crap. And go online, Twitter or wherever else, you see the photos of these meals that these kids are getting now, and it's horrendous, right? It just looks like it's worse than prison food.
Oh, yeah.
Because at least prisoners sue to get better food. Right. It's absolutely ridiculous.
Kids can't.
But it's healthy. So on one hand, you have this big health initiative from the federal government. Oh, these kids need it. It's healthy. It's good for them. A lot of them aren't getting the nutrition at home. So once again, we're replacing parenting with government.
Yep.
Right?
Do you remember when kids used to be able to have peanut butter and jelly sandwiches?
That's
at school?
what I had.
Oh, yeah.
PBJ
right? You can't even bring
peanut
it
butter
anymore.
and honey.
Yeah.
You can't bring it anymore.
By the way, you just guessed me and Sean's nicknames.
Peanut butter and honey.
I'm peanut butter, by the way.
Really?
Yeah, he's honey. It's a long story. Maybe at Freedom Fest we'll have those nicknames again or something different. I don't know.
But no, to answer Agador in the chat room, it does. It looks like something on a bad anime or a bad cartoon. But now you have
I've seen some really good anime
food stamps, right? And the whole food stamp and the things that these people can buy with food stamps is utterly ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
They can buy soda. They can buy things they don't need to sustain life.
Yep.
Now, if you want to do water, juice, a couple other things, and I'll tell you something.
Real juice.
Right.
Right.
As a foster parent, my son was eligible for WIC when he was a baby because he's a ward of the state still. He was not officially in my care. So at first, because at the time I was actually I was out of work when my son first came to us, and my wife said, well, let's do WIC for him a few times. And I was amazed at how stringent the WIC program was. Mm-hmm. You could only get fat-free milk. We ended up not taking it because I was just like, no, this is ridiculous. We don't need it that bad. But you could only get fat-free milk. Meanwhile, his doctor, who is an old-school pediatrician, said, no. You do whole milk.
Yep.
You want to put as much weight on him as possible. And you start looking through at what's acceptable and what's not, and it's absolutely insane. So you have that uber health kick there. But then you get to food stamps and you get to the EBT cards and what they can purchase with them. And I see a lot of stores now refusing EBT cards that once took them. And there was a store in the town that I live in who had a big sign on the door that says, we no longer take EBT cards. And the guy literally said, I don't feel good about it because it's ridiculous what they will come in and buy. And one of the other problems he had is they would come in, offer him a couple bucks to ring up this item, but really give him this item. And then start telling all the other stores that would do it and how badly abused it is. And the guy said, I'm not doing it anymore. You know, Cash, I don't want you in here. And it's not because he doesn't feel good about people who need assistance.
Is it because he's a racist?
No.
Or a classist?
It's because he doesn't want to. He's a conservative. Talking to him,
he must be a racist.
He doesn't want to be a part of such a system that's so screwed up. And he made a moral decision. And we see that all the time. And I also feel bad, once again, for the people who legitimately need that help. Because you have these idiots out there with EBT cards who are going in and buying this humongous Mountain Dew. Some places they'll give them a pack of cigarettes and scan something else, all this other stuff, or a Swisher, and walk out the door. But meanwhile, that's money, and I say this all the time, to somebody who may be actually in need.
Yes, and that's the problem.
Yep.
It's so widely used now that there's no possible way that you can oversee that, you can monitor it, you can ensure. How do you control that?
Right. You can't.
You can't.
The laws of unintended consequences.
Yeah,
and
the
doing what I
program's
call
too
the
big.
logical extension. Now, the perfect example of that is what happened in Philadelphia. Philadelphia decided that they're going to put the tax on the soft drinks, right?
Yep.
Sean, you know about Philadelphia, I would expect.
Yep.
Now, what's bordering Philadelphia?
New York, New Jersey.
New Jersey, that's right. And all you have to do is cross a
Bridge.
river, that's right, and go get your
Soda.
soft drinks, right, in another county or another state, and then do what? Come back
Bring it
on
back.
the bridge,
Right.
and then you have completely abrogated the point of paying the tax for the children.
You know what? That's ridiculous. They should make it a felony to import soda pop,
Hell
untaxed
yes.
soda pop
Yes.
into another state across state
Yeah,
lines.
yeah.
Listen,
Hey,
folks,
like it used to be with alcohol back in the day,
like
right?
it is right,
Sir.
like it is right now with ammunition and
Yes.
or magazines for weapons in the state of California.
Yes, absolutely.
You make it a listen, state of Pennsylvania. You don't have a hair on your ass if you don't make it a felony to bring untaxed soda in from out of state.
Why stop there? Don't we have a bottling company here in Sacramento?
Yes, we
Yes,
do.
we
The
do.
Coca-Cola bottling
That's
company.
right, and we also have Pepsi, not
Yes.
far from Gerber Road. You
Yes,
know,
we
maybe
do.
we need to get a number of large fire axes with a pointy tip on the other end.
Yeah.
Assemble a whole bunch of people and just go in and just smash the vats.
Yes, we need to have prohibition, but instead of alcohol, it's time for soda prohibition.
No kidding. No kidding.
We need to amend the Constitution. Look, they did it for alcohol. We can do it for soda pop. Alcohol never caused obesity. Alcohol has look. It has never caused. Listen, folks.
Why did you look at me when you said that?
Because
God
you
he didn't
drank
look
a lot.
over here.
I love you.
Why didn't he look over here? I don't get that.
BZ and I looked at each other and then looked at you. We're like, wait a minute.
I was wondering how long it was going to take you guys to jump on
There's
that.
the reason the word Zeppelin is in there.
Reclassify it as a salt soda. Good idea from the underground professor in the chat room. I like that. A salt soda, and then it's a felony, right? Any outside soda would now be considered, and just like cigarettes, where they have to stamp the bottom as to where you bring it in.
A salt soda. I like
salt
it.
soda. I like that.
I was like, a salt soda? What? Let's see, your Bostonian got through there for a second. I'm like, hey, what's salt have to do with anything? So like, yay, high in sodium. I don't know what you're trying to say. I think we're on to something.
I think we are too.
We can change the world, folks.
You know what I really appreciate? Looking around the studio for the people that haven't been here before, there's a beautiful American flag over there. It says Flag of Honor. Then over here it says SHR Media, Conservative Media Done Right, in a huge banner. I really like that.
Thank you.
Behind me, Sackheads Radio, sackheadsradio.com. And the other thing I really enjoy is the massive bank of TV screens that you have right over there. Because after that, what I saw, and you must have very adroit listeners, because if you look up on the screens, you can see already people with large fire axes are beginning to mill around just outside. I think you may have started a movement, perhaps even a cult.
Oh yeah, Sean started a movement, all right, but he finished it about 10 minutes before the show started. Look, I think we're honest. I think the Democrats' reaction.
The bank and TVs.
I think the most interesting reaction was from one
No,
of
the nice thing is you. Oh, damn. You spared no money here.
No.
I notice they're not black and white TVs.
No, full color.
They're
No.
color.
Yeah.
They're color.
full color.
Okay, and then they're not the little CRT tube things. They're flat screens.
Oh yeah,
And I think that's way cool. I really appreciate that.
I guess technically it's a flat screen. Right?
It is this. Two right there.
Yeah. We hemorrhage money. And so we
It
really
is
just have
Hemorrhage,
to.
all right.
Yeah.
We do hemorrhage money.
We hemorrhage.
Our output versus our intake may be slightly different, but we hemorrhage some friggin' money.
We have intake?
We used to. Until Sacco left. Oh, so listen.
So, but hang on a second.
Let's get back to where we were.
Yeah, the Democrat,
Salt soda, military grade sugar.
one of the Democrats came back and said, "Oh, you're just picking a fight with this Obama administration. What we really need is more regulation."
Yeah, well, yeah.
God,
Wait,
yes.
Wait, what? And what they were actually talking about is price control. This knucklehead's response, Drew Gatine, I don't know, whatever the hell his name is.
Guillotine.
Doesn't matter. Guillotine?
Yeah, guillotine.
It's too French. He came out and said, quote, nobody thinks that people on food stamps should be buying snack food and candy and sugary drinks. What we really need to do is find a way to make healthy food more affordable. There it is, folks. The answer to the concern is price control.
Socialism.
Price control. Look, it worked when FDR did it.
It was amazing in Venezuela just recently.
Damn, get out of my brain.
Yeah. So you guys talk modern history. I bring it way back.
Well, and here's the thing is, up until Venezuela, right, everybody... and
Did you say Venezuela?
Venezuela.
Got it.
I say this all the time. When you talk about socialism, communism, you up until Venezuela... happened to a fall.
Venezuela.
You had to show what was going on in the Soviet Union, right? And a lot of the younger people these days can't associate to that, which is why socialism has come back in this country. We've talked about that before.
Yes, we have. What do they teach in frickin' high school textbooks about the downfall of the Soviet Union?
Oh, they didn't. It was just they decided to change teams. That was it.
Oh, got it.
Yeah. They just decided to change flags. But so I am using Venezuela now. Because even North Korea, everyone thinks that they're just crazy, so they don't even count that anymore as a country.
Right.
I'm not saying they're wrong, but that's a general consensus is, they're just a whole bunch of kooky little Koreans running around. So Venezuela, which a couple years ago was touted as the bastion of socialism in heaven.
Right, under Chavez.
Yes.
And now,
Not
because
Maduro.
Well, everything's been pissed away because you can't exist like that for an extended period of time. So I feel that you have to – but pricing control was one of the big things that they did down there. Oh, everybody has to be able to afford X, Y, and Z food.
Yeah, but the argument to that is going to be, well, they just didn't know how to do it right.
Exactly.
That's why I bring it back to FDR. FDR had price controls here in this country, and it prolonged our depression. It took a world war to bring us out. We've tried it here, folks.
Anyone in here, anyone in chat, name me one country where socialism worked well. And what you said was absolutely 100% correct. Each individual dictator, and that's what it takes, a diktat, to decide, D-I-K-T-A-T, it's Russian, if you want to drive to your DACA.
Stop being nasty, Sean. Not dictator. It's different.
Sorry.
Every dictator thinks that they can do socialism better than the last guy.
Yep.
And that's exactly what you were saying.
Yep.
Obama thinks that he can do socialism better than the last guy.
Oh,
all it takes is me to step in as dictator, and I will be able to bring socialism that will last.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, now I've seen what they've done wrong, so we get it
exactly because we learn from history.
They call it democratic socialism now, right? They keep changing. And if you look at the democratic socialism webpage, everything they put in there is socialism and communism. They just gussy it up a little bit.
You mean the SEIU page?
Essentially, yes.
Right.
Look, what was it last week or the week before where we actually talked about the socialist, a named socialist running for president in the United States. And there were socialists on the presidential ticket
Bernie
up
Sanders.
until 1940. 2 or something like that, whatever presidential election that was, or 44, after World War II. After World War II, there was no longer another socialist on the ballot for president getting up for electoral votes. Never until this election cycle with Bernie Sanders.
But here's the thing. That I have to actually say.
Yeah, because of time.
Right.
It hasn't gone away. We just call it something. They're out of the woodwork now.
Right.
They've put on suits now.
Exactly. That's what I appreciate about Bernie Sanders. You know what you get when you look at Bernie Sanders.
Yes.
He'll tell you to your face
without
what you're
going
to get.
Yes.
But the only thing that no one else is talking about during this election, and again, irritation 1.0, is where do you get the money? All of these individuals,
That's not
Clinton, Sanders, Johnson, Trump, no one. Wilson, oh my God, will address the naked, huge elephant wearing the pink diaper in the room. Where do you find
Why did everyone look at
me?
Vegas.
30 seconds.
I saw him on the flat screen. He was right over there.
They know where. but they won't say where because they have to level the playing field. And the way they do that, you can't raise everybody up to a certain socioeconomic position.
No.
You have to lower those. It's easier to lower than it is to raise, which means they're going to lower the middle class, they're going to lower the upper class, and you can't say that. They know where they're going to get the funding, at least the funding to temporarily prop this thing up. But
well, yes,
term,
I know exactly
right?
where you're going to get the funding. You go into the rooms in the U.S. Treasury in San Francisco and also back east, and those large metal machines that say Heinemann on them, that are presses, that are running 24/7. That's where you get your money.
Yeah, you're just going to keep producing a couple more of them.
Hey, you just got to digitize it now. Hey, go into that program and change, just add a couple zeros.
Add a couple zeros. Hey, we're up against a break here on the Sackheads Radio Show. When we come back, I'm not wearing my glasses. What do we got after? Oh,
Toddlers for Gun Control.
Toddlers for Gun Control right here on the Sackheads Radio Show live in the SHR Media Network.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Breaking news. According to the latest report coming out of SHR Media, a merchandise store to support both the Reaver of Common Sense and SHR Media has just been unleashed to the general public. Be forewarned that this site can be contagious and numerous items can be purchased to support the best news programming. Go to Reaver.one website and click on the store link to check out the merchandise.
Hello, I'm Matt, a student at Hillsdale College. Here is Hillsdale President Larry Arnn on the continuing relevance of the Constitution.
Many argue today that the Constitution is outdated because it addresses problems peculiar to the 18th century. Some parts of the Constitution do read rather quaintly. Consider the injunction against titles of nobility in Article 1, Section 9 of the Constitution. But is that so outdated? The purpose of the injunction is to prevent the government granting special privileges to some for partisan reasons. This strikes at the heart of the rule of law. The crony capitalism so common today is a place where the government bestows favors and tax dollars on some businesses to give them a leg up over others. This is exactly the kind of thing the Constitution was meant to prohibit. The Constitution is not so outdated after all.
This Constitution Minute was brought to you by Hillsdale College. To join the national conversation on the Constitution, go to constitutionminute.com.
Times are dark. The people misled by corrupt politicians, lied to by establishment media, and deceived by the false messages of Islam. A nation in confusion needs a guide. It needs a man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me on Spreaker, SHR Media, High Plains Talk Radio, Live Rebooting Liberty, and YouTube for a unique brand of commentary on the unpleasant blind guy. Because truth is not always pleasant.
In a world controlled by corrupt politicians.
You got a business. You didn't build that.
A team of ordinary men emerge from the ashes to give voice to the voiceless and hope to the hopeless. Sackhead Sean.
Dude, I'm not saying Kyle from a stupid pro.
Sackhead Clint.
All good friends of ours usually show up drunk.
Also starring Sacco as the producer.
I'm a little bit drunk, 'cause I'm drinking.
They are the Sackheads Radio Show. Every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific on shrmedia.com.
Beware, the Jersey Takeover is here. Every Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can catch the Reaver of Common Sense show, hosted by Jersey Joe, right here on shrmedia.com and highplainsdailynews.com. Only Jersey can deliver hell like no one else, so consider this your fair warning.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And welcome back to the Sackheads Radio Show live in the SHR.
Gentlemen, thank you very much for having me. This is grand.
See, it's so nice that somebody actually thinks that. Because our last few in-studio guests haven't been exactly of like mind. They've been a little bit Democrat. Left.
Are you talking about Liberal Jake?
Liberal Jake.
Liberal Jake enjoys being here, though.
He enjoys the drinking that we do here.
Yeah, that's enjoying being here. Look, because if he can't counter-argue, he can drink.
We got to have Liberal Jake back because he's a good friend of the show. And actually, talking to Jake,
he's not
the
as
last
liberal as he makes
6
out
months,
to be.
he's really started to swing around. And I think he just, like everybody, a lot of people in this country are starting to see the truth through the BS. Which is really good.
God, I only hope that's true.
I agree with you, and only time will tell. Somebody asked when we'll have Lustful Dominique back on the show. That's pending the restraining order. So once
we filed. For the record, that we filed.
Yes. Yes.
Wait a minute. Are you saying that nothing succeeds like success, or rather nothing exceeds like excess?
Yes. Nothing exceeds like excess would actually be a great statement for this entire show here. So we want to move on now to just what is the most ridiculous...
Name the segment.
The name of this segment is Toddlers for Gun Control.
Thank you.
You wonder why Congress has, a 13% approval rating? When the Senate shot down the 4... See what I did there? Shot down the 4 gun control bills.
I see what you did there.
2 days ago.
Yeah, and you know what they did today.
The Senate?
Yes, sitting on their little posteriors.
Well, yeah, this was the House.
Yes.
So the House Democrats decided... The same ones who, by the way, interrupted Paul Ryan's moment of silence for Orlando last week, decided that if they weren't going to get their way, which is funny.
Well, hang on a second. Do you have the audio?
I do.
Just play the audio and let our listeners make the decision.
This was from the floor, I'm being told.
I think so.
That's the exact same cut I heard on Fox.
Yeah. Well, we try to be edgy.
Okay.
So that was live from the House floor. House Democrats decided today that if they weren't going to be heard, they were going to have a sit-in, or as I believe it was Representative Lewis, no relation, said, occupy the House floor. Here's a couple of the problems I have with this. Number one, they already get paid to sit on their ass and do nothing. Why couldn't they keep it in the chair?
Right.
Number two, and more importantly, why wasn't gun control so important the first 2 years Obama was in the office and they had the House and the Senate? And they could have passed whatever they wanted. Wasn't there, what could have been more important to these Democrats?
Healthcare.
I'm not done yet.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
We talked about this, remember? A couple minutes to build it up.
I'm sorry.
Pre-production meeting, man.
Okay, go.
Gun control. No, wait. You were right, Obamacare. So these same idiots who for 2 years did nothing but jam Obamacare down, and it took them almost 2 years to pass it. That's how screwed up the bill was. They couldn't even get themselves to decide on Obamacare.
They didn't even read. They don't even know what's in it.
And it took them almost 2 years to pass it when they could have gone after gun control. Now, do I agree with any of the gun control segments that are being pushed around right now? No. Certainly when Barbara Boxer goes out there, or was it Feinstein, whichever ghoul it was, and is talking about essentially...
Ghoul.
It was one of those ghouls. And is essentially talking about how due process is getting in the way of finding suspected terrorists. And listen, if they signed an order, or if they passed a law that said no illegals or non-citizens could possess a firearm, I'd be okay with that.
Absolutely.
But here's a little hint. It pretty much already is that way. If you aren't an American citizen, for you to be able to get a firearm, you have to go through a hell of a lot of background and checks, and you have to get all these temporary weird passes. There is a process in place, but it is so few and far between that it almost never happens.
So I have a question.
Okay.
Could you imagine if somebody who's tasked with like enforcing the law, something like that, made the statement, well, due process is getting in the way of us doing
on the wrong side.
Right. Due process is getting in the way of us cleaning up this neighborhood.
Yeah. Another question. Who creates that no-fly list?
Yeah.
So that if you happen to find yourself on it
Like that representative?
What do you do? Oh, not just a representative.
Ted Kennedy.
A great radio person, Tom Sullivan, was on it.
Tom Sullivan was.
Yes.
Tom Sullivan.
Teddy Kennedy.
Tom Sullivan's a pilot, too. He was a commercial pilot for years.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep, Ted Kennedy.
To whom do you go for this terrible, execrable due process? Who? I don't know of anyone that you would do that.
Isn't there some document that says we have to follow due process? Like, isn't it written down somewhere that everybody has a right to
I don't
due process?
know. It may have been written down one time, but,
Like a long time ago by old people who didn't really know what the hell they were doing, right?
They held slaves.
Well, every single one of them.
Every single one of them were rich and owned slaves.
Oh,
all
hell
of them.
yes.
100%.
Hell yes. Smoke cigars.
Yeah.
And I think it's funny that the Senate 2 days ago brings up 4 gun control bills, 2 of them brought up by Republicans, that essentially said, in order for a U.S. citizen, I think this was the Grassley bill, if I'm not wrong, in order for a U.S. citizen to be put on the terrorist watch list for guns, that the federal government had to go petition a court to get a temporary restraining order for that person to not achieve a firearm and then follow up with actual due process.
I might be okay with that.
That's
I would have
more
to read,
reasonable.
Right.
I would have to see the finite
it.
details because I did not get a chance to see it.
Yep.
But I can see that. But it goes back to, remember we were talking about the mental health restraining orders for guns a couple years ago? I think it was after Aurora.
Yeah. Yep.
And we said, as long as there is due process and order, I'm not 100% against that. I'm not for it per se, because what happens with restraining orders now all over the country is they are erroneously achieved. People walk in and say, oh, this happened, that happened, and immediately on the weekends, and I have friends who've told me this time and again, the judge will approve that order, and now the person who's accused has to fight to get it vacated, even if they've done nothing. It's not necessarily due process. But that's exactly what's going on with that bill. However, it is a much more reasonable bill than the other two. The other two were just ridiculous, the 2 Democrat bills. But the Democrats who are crying for any sort of gun control, we have to do something now and change this and change that, but none of them voted for it. And it didn't pass.
Yeah. I have a gun control bill. I have one. And I think it's completely
Forehand,
reasonable.
grip hand, level sights.
Yeah. Deep breath, squeeze. Okay. Look, I have a gun control bill. And some of you may support it. Some of you may hate me for this. But I don't care. And you all know me. I'm pro Second Amendment. But I have a bill, and that is this. I think the preamble to this bill should be something to the effect of we are in a state of war, or ISIS, Islamic extremists, are in a state of war with us, since Congress won't grow a pair and declare war. As this war is being waged in our streets and among our population, it is a matter of national security, and gun violence has become such an epidemic that we as Congress are forced to address this issue. Just like the Democrats say, I agree with them 110% on that particular point. And the bill says this: because of our national security, every home in America shall have a firearm.
Yes.
Switzerland.
For the national defense.
Yep. Yes.
For the national defense, because the people are the informal militia, as outlined in the United States Code. They're all the informal militia. And even though they're considered weapons of war, the fact that a state of war exists by these extremists that operate within our borders and within our streets, we have to possess these weapons to protect our citizenry and for them to protect themselves.
Yes.
And that's a gun control bill that I think everybody should be able to get
I would
behind.
support that, very much
Right?
so. I could have signed off on that. And you know what? I wish we could put
You
that
were
to
worried
some
at
sort
first,
of...
by the way.
Huh?
You were worried at
I was.
first.
I thought maybe you hit your head in the way over today. BZ, you bring up Switzerland. What a great example that gets overlooked all the time. Every home in Switzerland has a fully automatic weapon issued by the government.
They do.
Oh my gosh, crime rate must be through the roof.
And
what happens?
I like to bring it up, but Switzerland is truthfully an entirely different entity. It's small. It's somewhat ethnocentric. They can get away with a lot of things like that we simply cannot. But the big canard that is going on now is that gun violence is off the charts. Hello. Bullshit alert. It's not.
Yeah.
I can make a reference right now, but I won't. Let's just say that in the 90s, when certain personnel used to work around here, the caseloads with regarding gun violence were really off the charts back then. And people don't know what having a terrible caseload was as opposed to then. Gun violence has gone down extremely. I don't have the stats in front of me right now. I have a wonderful PDF of all the various gun violence stats that you would want. But the one thing that is starting to trend now is that shootings are in fact starting to go up. There's an excellent reason for that. Comey was right. There is a Ferguson effect.
Yes.
Yep.
Imagine that.
Well, and you're also having the people who were put in jail in the 90s that are getting out. There's a lot of people, especially in California, there are a lot of people being let out of prison that have no right walking the streets.
That's not true. They're nonviolent.
Who are going right
Otherwise,
back to their old habits. And that's not just California.
AB 109.
Yes.
Yep.
In California.
Prop 9.
Yep.
Yeah. What's the level now for a felony for theft? $900.
Yep.
Yeah. What was it originally? $400.
Yeah. And that's gone up too.
Why? People in San Francisco, for example, I was just reading an article. People in San Francisco are actually starting to get fed up. There's one particular woman was going to a glass store because her car got clouded. And when she was in getting a new windshield for her car, she parked it outside and it got hit again.
Yep.
Well, it's absolutely starting to skyrocket because criminals may be criminals, but they're not stupid.
They're not stupid.
Property crimes are skyrocketing.
Well, and I don't want to get too far off topic with the gun control thing, but there's also in San Francisco they're talking now about limiting the police department's funding and only giving them enough for 6 months to operate, and then they have to go back and essentially prove that they need more funding. This is the time of the rise of ISIS. We know about the immigration problems. We know about violence going up in the inner city, all these other things. So this is also the same city that wants to ban the Blue Angels from strafing them during the air show. So it's hard to kind of...
Now, hang on a second, Sean.
No,
now you're being...
That is absolutely correct.
Yes.
I went to Fleet Week last year out there. Someone was nice enough to let us go on the... about 100-foot yacht out there. It was absolutely gorgeous that day. The Blue Angels were fabulous. But, of course, San Francisco and Fleet Week... it's like leftist central, and they don't want the heavily militaristic Blue Angels,
the acrobat team,
screwing up their perfect little kingdom. Well, guess what? Been to San Francisco recently. Been to Reno recently. Looked at all the bums that are pissing themselves.
Yep. Yes.
They have outdoor urinals in San Francisco, so they can pee in front of God and everybody.
Yep.
It's insane. So when you talk about gun violence, number one, that's not an issue. Guns are not the issue. The gun is a tool. It's like, okay, I won't go there right now. The gun is nothing more than a tool.
Yes.
When you proscribe the tool, people will get back down to the Mark I, Model 1 rock.
Yes.
Yep.
Without thinking about it.
It doesn't matter.
Well, and you look at the Boston Marathon bombings, right? Yes, they used firearms when they were in the police pursuit afterwards, but during the initial, there wasn't a shot fired.
No.
There was not a shot fired. And it was because they were having a hard time achieving the weapons prior to that. And they didn't think they would have enough, which is why they executed Officer Collier, the MIT police officer, and took his weapons because they only had one gun for the two of them at the time.
Gun control works.
Gun control works. So now let's go back to these beautifully intelligent Democrats and look at these gun control bills that they're pushing. And if you're a Democrat right now, and I'm not even talking specifically to the gay community. If you're in the gay community, by the way, there's a bunch of great websites.
Have you seen some of these groups coming out and endorsing Trump?
Yes,
in the LGBT
and you're also
community?
seeing
and purchasing
pink
AR-15s.
The Pink Shooters group. There's a couple groups. I actually volunteered on Facebook to anyone who's of the LGBT community that is of legal right to own a firearm. If you want to learn how to use it, I'm not a certified state instructor, but I can give you the bare minimum to see if it's something you're going to be interested in. Take you to the range so you can defend yourself. I'm absolutely for that. And there's a great website on Facebook where there are thousands of people who are doing this right now. Mm-hmm. Hey, we want you to be safe. You're a citizen. You have this right to exercise your Second Amendment. Use it. Protect yourself. Nobody should be victimized, except for the Democrats don't think so. The Democrats don't want you to have a weapon in your hands if you're LGBT, white. They don't care who you are. As Charlie Rangel said today in an interview with the Daily Caller, I don't want my constituents in Harlem to be able to get a CCW because they were referencing the NYPD scam where the NYPD officers were arrested. And the reporter for the Daily Caller essentially pointed to the Capitol Police and said, well, you have protection. And he essentially said, well, yeah, that's because we need it more than others. That wasn't his direct quote, but that's what he alluded it to.
Eric Arthur Blair. Who is Eric Arthur Blair? Anybody in the chat know who Eric Arthur Blair is?
Give him a minute, because it'll start coming out.
Okay. Let's reference Eric Arthur Blair, because I'm going to give you a very famous Eric Blair quote. I will tell you this. Eric Blair is English and happened to write two of the most important books of the 20th century. That should be a massive clue right there. Anybody
He was
get
an
it
author.
Yet? He was an author. Very good.
Attaboy!
George Orwell.
I need a trophy.
Have you read 1984 recently?
Yes. Not recently, but yes.
I read it 1984 last month. And after reading that, I thought, oh, my God.
We're there.
That is here.
Yes.
And just what you were referencing, you know what? Ladies and gentlemen, all animals are equal, except some animals are more equal than others.
No,
that would be the persons down at the Bill Mill,
Yep.
a few miles this way, and that would be all the particular persons over in D.C.
Yes.
They're better than you. We're just serfs, groundlings, proles.
Yes.
We're pawns
We
to
work
be
for
used
them.
on a chessboard. We exactly.
Well, and I said it all the
we
time.
work for them.
You have people who live in this amazing gun bubble where they are protected with weaponry that you cannot, as a private citizen, own. They're protected with fully automatic weapons on some level. They're protected with guys. And, Rafe, don't get me wrong. I understand the need for their protection because there are people that would target them en masse. However, they live in a bubble telling you who has to live in maybe Detroit or Chicago or Oakland or San Francisco and go to work every day. Maybe you carry money or whatever, who are telling you that you do not need to be able to protect yourself.
I have a sidebar argument, and this is going to spark chat room. I have a feeling, and I might get hate mail on this, but I want a discussion point for the room, and I'm not going to take a position. I'm just going to throw this out as a thought or a talking point. We talked about non-citizens not being able to own firearms or get firearms, right? Refugees, people that are coming into this country legally, not illegally, but legally, maybe not only or having to fill out additional paperwork or whatever it is. My question is this. If we believe, and maybe you don't, but if we believe that we have natural rights, that we have certain rights because our Creator created us as human beings, therefore all human beings have these same rights, and by that very nature, that includes the right to self-defense, and by extension, the right not to be oppressed by a government or by anybody else, why would immigrants not be able to exercise their Second Amendment rights? Understand voting rights because they're not citizens of this country, therefore voting is a little bit different because they're supposed to vote for their government. But what about their First Amendment right? They're allowed free speech. If they're arrested, they're afforded Fifth Amendment protections, Sixth Amendment protections, Fourth Amendment protections. So what makes the Second Amendment any different? Why do we treat the Second Amendment differently? And there are some on the right that think that that's the case. And again, this is just a thought, so I'm curious to get your thoughts on that. That's
a perfect libertarian point of view.
It is.
Actually. If folks haven't done this recently, go to the Libertarian website and take a peek at what it is that libertarians actually believe in. On my blog, it says I'm basically a conservative first and a little bit of libertarian mixed in. I started out as a Democrat. Voting Democrat was when I was in college. That should be no shock because eventually I came to my senses.
And had a job.
Yes. No shock. Exactly. Yeah. That's precisely what happened. I started having to input into the system, and then the system came back and began to pull out of my pocket. And I began to see just what percentile of income I actually was allowed by the government to keep. But if you go to the Libertarian website, you'll see things that's why I'm not a large L libertarian. Open borders, complete unfettered open borders, hot and cold running drugs, anytime, any day, And those are some things that I just cannot go along with.
Right.
And the reason, you pose an excellent question.
Right, because we're talking about 2A here. I'm like a fundamental human right if you believe in natural law, right? Borders, drugs, different animal
And
life.
perhaps in an ideal world, on someone's purple-skied planet, you could say that these things should be ideals that we could all eventually embrace. But we don't live on purple-skied planets. We live in reality. We live in the real world. One of the tightest borders is Mexico. Mm-hmm. Its southern border. I went to Mexico not too terribly long ago.
Tight as a drum.
On a particular trip. And as I was taking a trip, the people that were giving the tour were pointing to some people that were on a sidewalk. And I said, that's interesting. Why are all those people lined up on the sidewalk? And they had cups out, and they were selling chiclets, for God's sake. Who buys chiclets in Mexico?
Well,
but the guy was saying,
do something to wash that water
those
down.
Those guys over there are Hondurans and El Salvadorans, and they are here illegally. Give it about another half hour, and we're going to call the police and get them swapped up. The Hondurans and the El Salvadorans, they're scum, and they need to go back from where they came from. Mm-hmm. And they're hurting our economy, and they're taking jobs from people. And I thought, oh, my God, you ignorant bastard. You can't apply that to anything but your own situation. Go now to the Second Amendment. With regard to the Second Amendment, ideally, when you want to be able to defend yourself, and you would think that ideally people should have the right to defend themselves and their families. But we also believe in a thing called sovereignty. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I do not believe in a one-world barbecue. I don't believe in a one-world planet. I don't believe in the UN. I think the UN should go back to Geneva, perhaps, and then we could turn the building into some really excellent condos because it's got a wonderful view down to the river.
It does.
It's just absolutely stupendous.
We've said veteran housing and veteran hospitals, I think, would be a great spot.
And
yes,
implode it.
I like that.
And implode it and leave a monument there for us to remember what a complete colossal waste of money and
what
time
not
it is.
To do again.
Right.
But with regard to the Second Amendment, you have to be logical, and you have to be rational, and you have to think logically, and you have to say that people that are here in this nation, they get priority. Yeah. They have to have
Americans.
priority.
Yeah, and
you
look,
have to have borders.
I agree. We're not, borders and drugs. There's nowhere by God has instituted governments among men, instituted nations, all those things, and I think a fundamental argument can be made. But we're talking about a right, which is specifically enshrined in our Constitution, that we extend those rights in certain situations to those that are here illegally. And we're not talking about sovereign borders and so forth. I hate the UN. I'm not for open borders. I'm not for drugs just to flow throughout. Do I care if somebody smokes a joint on their own, they don't have kids around? I really don't care if somebody does that in their private residence. Do I want cocaine and methamphetamine and all this other crap out? Absolutely not. But in terms of the Second Amendment, it is a specific right, because if we're able to restrict that from somebody, what is then going to stop the government from restricting their right to due process,
right,
or their Fifth Amendment or any other amendment? And so that's where I think the Second Amendment is different than when we're talking about the open borders and so forth.
But I'll flip it around. Let's not afford that to them.
What's that?
Let's not afford them all the other amendments.
Okay, but then the same argument would apply. If we really believe our rights come from God, if we really believe that we were founded on natural law,
I agree,
and that we have certain rights, not the right to come and go through borders,
2 minutes,
but not the right to do cocaine off of some hooker's ass, but I'm talking about just...
That was a great movie, by the way.
That was a great movie, right? I've seen a lot of variations in that movie. But we're talking about the right to free speech, because look, do I think somebody comes in our country have the right to speak their mind? Should somebody in Iraq be able to speak their mind? Yes, because I believe that
clearly, obviously, you
right.
bet. Hell yes.
And so if they come here to the U.S., should they be able to speak their mind?
Yes.
Yes. Then what's the difference between applying the First Amendment to them and applying the Second? And the Second Amendment, not even in terms of firearms, but the Second Amendment in terms of knives, billy clubs, saps, whatever else you want to apply to it. Why is that different, even for conservatives?
Well, they have the right to defend themselves, but they don't necessarily have the right to carry a firearm.
Why? Why are they exempted from the Second Amendment?
Because but I don't think they should follow under any part of the Bill of Rights until they're a citizen.
Okay, so
exactly.
then you're taking the natural law argument out of it.
Right.
Then why do we have the right to carry guns?
Because we're citizens.
Why?
And it's given to
but
us
what
by
gives
our
us
Creator.
that right?
But
if it's given to us by our Creator,
Right.
why isn't it given to them?
Because the Constitution, in my opinion, shouldn't apply to them until they're citizens.
But the
That's
basic
the
principles.
I believe in keeping the sovereignty.
But the basic principles are universal. It has nothing to do with sovereignty of country.
I understand
right?
that. I understand that.
Because if it has to do with sovereignty
was written for our citizens.
But if it has to do with sovereignty of country, then you're talking about government granting authority and power and not rights. And if the government grants it, they can take it away.
I understand
That's the danger.
I understand that. But at some point, too, you also have to enforce our sovereignty. And you also have to look at that.
Then get them out of here if they're here illegally.
Yes.
Yes.
But what if they're
Three
here
words.
legally?
It's our country.
What if they're here legally? What if they're immigrating here legally,
but like
they
I
haven't
said,
completed
if you're
their
here,
process
if
yet?
you were here legally with the visa, there is a process.
There's a
which,
process, but why does it have to be more difficult than somebody else?
Why? It's not at this point.
Ooh,
It's difficult
ask the
for
federal
everybody.
government that one.
Yeah,
but should it be? And that's
why
the crux
does
of
it
my
take
argument.
7 years
Because I
or
will
more?
I will agree with the point that if somebody's here illegally, if they're criminal aliens, they absolutely should not have the right to carry a firearm. They shouldn't be here. They should be deported.
I think they all should be deported if they're not here legally.
Yes, but if they're here legally, I think everybody should.
Which would also end the argument that's in Congress right now about gun control, because they keep bringing up the illegals getting guns. Get the hell rid of them. It's not a problem. That's your job to begin with. And we're out of time. By the way,
we've been out of time. You just wanted to make your point.
They
because
just
it was your
resumed.
segment.
They just resumed their sit-in. By the way,
do you have live audio before to take us to break?
Yeah.
Still
yeah,
same
that's
rhetoric.
It hasn't changed.
Yeah. Same rhetoric.
Well, it's the Democrats. What would you expect?
Oh, wait. No, I think you can hear Pelosi. Yeah. She's
oh,
the
right.
The gurgling.
Yeah, that's her.
Yeah, okay.
Right. she's the one with the little sucky thing in her mouth. What are those called?
What's Bill Clinton doing there? That's weird.
I thought she went to visit Assad again. Hey, we'll be back right here on the Sackheads Radio Show live on the SHR Media Network.
The best late-night conservative talk show in America, Jackassery Radio. And listen, there are no people better on the air to give you the best in conservative talk than Sackhead Sean and Sackhead Clint. And we're working on the immigration papers for a certain other guy who happens to work here, too. For those who are tuning in around the world to the best in late-night conservative talk, Jackassery Radio.
Radio. Radio.
The best late-night conservative talk show in America. In America.
And in this web was a large, I'm pretty sure it was the biggest spider I've ever seen.
Yeah, that's right. We're back here on the Sackheads Radio Show live on the SHR Media Network. Hey, who needs breaks?
You know what? You haven't done the countdown in a while.
I haven't done the countdown in a while. Sorry.
I miss your little sausage fingers counting down at me. And we lost our on-air light.
Sacco took it when he left. That guy pillaged
have
everything.
A rotating red light bulb for that. That was back in the silo days.
So as I said before break, the Democrats have resumed their sit-in on the floor.
What, they do break for frickin' pizza or what?
Well, they were able. Paul Ryan was able to get them to kind of come to order a little bit, and they've since resumed. So, absolutely ridiculous.
Are they chanting "Hell no, we won't go"?
I should pull up C-SPAN and see.
You should, because that would be awesome.
But here's the inanity of it all. They're sitting down demanding a bill, but they just voted them down.
Yes.
And there's no bill.
And that's what...
So they're sitting on their butts waiting for a bill that isn't present to make a point of we have no bill.
Well, or to make a point that even though our system worked as designed, we're going to cry about it.
Way.
And
that's
so
the
we're
amazing part.
We're going to protest.
And it kills me, too. Like, the other thing I brought up on Twitter last week was, hey, it's amazing to me how they can't get a declaration of war going against ISIS. But, man, within...
They can't even freaking blame the terrorists for the Orlando attack. They're blaming each other.
Within 8 hours of the attack, they had a gun control bill ready to go. Absolutely ridiculous. You saw congressmen... tomorrow we're putting it right onto the floor. We have this bill, blah, 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 blah. And that shows you how they're just opportunists when it comes to this stuff. It has nothing to do with what's going to keep people safe, because when it comes time to keep people safe, they don't want to do it. By the way, I am looking at the floor right now, and they're still doing their sit-in, which is just ridiculous because we have to move on to other topics.
I will say they have nice carpet.
Does it match the drapes?
You talking about Pelosi again?
I like the designs on the carpet. Very nice.
I want to know that. Why doesn't the Speaker of the House, hey, Mr. Ryan, if you're listening to our show, why don't you grow a pair and have the Sergeant at Arms pull their asses out
for disruption?
Disruption.
Yep, absolutely.
You're the freaking Speaker of the House.
Hey, if Nancy Pelosi can do it, why can't we? What did Nancy Pelosi do? Oh, that's right. She shut off microphones and turned off the lights in the middle of the Republicans. Goose, gander, anyone.
Well, and that's just the problem. And I talk about this with Paul Ryan and a lot of other No. But when I'm talking about them is there's no stones. There's absolutely no stones. And listen, this isn't the first time the Democrats have pulled this crap. They've done this before with the walkouts. Remember they did walkouts a couple years ago? And it's all about votes. And I keep trying to tell people that. You think they care about gun control? Most of them have CCWs. Most of them, I guarantee you, just like Obamacare, they will be exempt from any bill that they pass. They live in a freaking bubble.
That's exactly, absolutely 100% correct. Anybody watch House of Cards?
It is.
There are two versions. There's the original British version, and then there's the House of Cards with Kevin Spacey, in which he's a House Democrat, and now, as a matter of fact, he's President of the United States. What does Frank Underwood say? It's not necessarily about the money. It's about the power.
Yes.
And the control. When you have perfumed princes and princesses being treated like gods and expecting deference, that creates an atmosphere of unmitigated arrogance, and hence you get people like Hillary Clinton. However, the GOP should not stand or remain gobsmacked because of the fact that they are the ones that created Donald Trump. Trump is nothing but an extension of what the GOP has lacked, that is to say, a spine for the past 10 years or so. There was a time, ladies and gentlemen, when you remember that we controlled both houses in the presidency. And so what did we do with all that power? Nothing.
At all. At all. Nothing at all.
You know, my civics teacher, Mr. Helms, said a long time ago in a galaxy far,
People
far
are
away.
Googling civics right now.
Oh, yeah. He said, you know what?
Not cervix, civics.
I have to tell you this. Yes, hello, welcome. BZ, Bovie, and Zeppelin at your cervix. Anyway, he said, Democrats don't win elections. Republicans lose them.
Yeah.
Yep.
I agree with
and
that.
And it's absolutely true.
I agree with that.
Where and how we got here today is because of invertebrates in the GOP, which comprises most of them, not doing their damn jobs.
Right.
And so you get somebody like a Trump. Think of this. Would you not agree, people in chat, people in the room here, Hillary Clinton is truly one of the most beatable persons ever to be handed over to the GOP.
Yes.
Fish in a barrel.
And who do we have? Yeah, well, I can tell you quite frankly, I've lost people for saying this. Donald Trump is a moron. But now I've gotten to the point where I have to say, oh, well, I guess he's my moron.
Well, and
here's but how much of a moron can he really
uncouth.
be? But how much of a moron can he really be given the empire that he has?
I don't
mean, the guy has some kind of smarts.
I don't think he has an amount of smarts. I would cede you that. But there will be one, Hugh Hewitt was talking about, it's gotten to the point where it's either Hillary or Trump. It's that way or now. And I'll be upfront. I'm going to vote for Trump. In November, I'm going to vote for Trump. And I will fleck all the enamel off my teeth to do it, but I'm going to do it.
Yeah, it'll be the anti-Hillary vote.
I can put it down to 2 words. Why? Supreme Court.
Yep.
3, possibly 4.
Because that's exactly it.
Yep. All right, we're going to get back on track.
No, this is good. We'll get there. I just want to say that title.
I know. That's what I'm trying
But we'll get there.
I want to say it.
We'll get there.
Okay.
Because you're going to, you have to replace Scalia, which was a terrible loss.
Oh.
Okay, so there's one. You've got an 8-8 court. And when you got a split court on split decisions, Kennedy was historically, in the past 5 years or so, he was the one that was the decider in chief.
Yeah.
Which is why you had 9. Now you've got 8-8. When you have a split court, what happens?
Nothing.
Well, what happens is
the lower court's
the
rulings
lower
stay
courts
in effect.
Well, that's what I mean.
And the
that's
Ninth
what
Circuit,
they do.
The
They
Supreme
hold.
Court does nothing.
Just had that ruling on
concealed
carry in California.
Why do you think that all of a sudden got pushed?
Oh,
because after the 3-judge panel, they were holding off on that for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden, after the death of Scalia, that all of a sudden came up to the... It was weird how that jumped a lot of dockets.
That wasn't weird.
No, well, I was being sarcastic.
Oh. I can't tell with you anymore. I just can't tell with you anymore.
But most people know the 9th DCA is the most overturned court in the entire nation.
They're a bunch of freaking whack jobs.
Well, it makes this... It just...
You had 3 judges that made sense.
GOP for creating Trump, but I'll vote for him on the off chance. Number 1, we got to replace Scalia. That's just to make it an even 9.
Yeah.
Then there's information to the effect, Ginsburg's got to go, literally and figuratively. And like you were saying, plus Scalia, I'm thinking the next president is going to have up to 3 appointments to make.
I agree.
And that will change the complexion of this country
30, 40 years.
For 2 generations at least.
Yes, it will.
And it is absolutely critical. So for only SCOTUS, I'm going to vote for Trump. At least there's a potential for a modicum of sanity there.
The stakes have never been higher. And look, I venture this. If what?
Just the modicum of sanity was a great line. I'm writing that down.
You need to write that down. If Hillary wins this election, look, our country is so polarized right now that we can't... Has there ever been a time in American history where we have been attacked on our own soil, and as a country, we blamed each other and not the enemy? I don't think so. I don't think there's ever been a time. We are so divided right now as a country along political and ideological lines that we have a terror attack happen and we're blaming each other. Nobody's blaming the terrorist. And my fear is that if we have a Democrat that's elected, I'm not pushing for this. I'm not saying this should happen. But
I know where you're going.
I think that this country will split.
Yes.
I really don't.
I'm afraid of what would happen.
I
truly am.
I don't know that our country would
can
survive with all 50 states intact.
I agree.
I really don't.
There will be civil unrest. Some bad stuff is going to happen. I don't know when. I don't know how. I don't know in what form it will take. But I know there will be civil unrest.
The other thing that's going to go on between the civil unrest is you're going to see these terror attacks increase. And I think you're going to see them increase between now and January anyways. But I think if you have Hillary stay in, it's only going to be tenfold. And listen, I want to talk. You brought up a great point about how during this terror attack, we are all of a sudden at each other's throats. After 9/11, Congress as a whole stood on the House of the Capitol and sang, "God bless America."
Yep.
And I wrote an article this week about 9/11. I essentially said, we made a promise to you, and we broke that promise. We said we would never forget the people we lost on 9/11. We promised we would never forget the military personnel that went overseas and fought for us. We wouldn't forget the people in Shanksville who fought back. We would not forget any of those people. Yep. But as a country, we have. As individuals, we may not have. But as a country, we have forgot what happened to us on 9/11, and we have got into this demagoguery of bullshit in this country about things that aren't important, political sideshows like these a-holes on the House floor right now, and we're worried about everything else but the reality. There was a clip to a video game I saw a couple years ago on YouTube, and they're talking about the bad guys joining force with the good guys because the worst bad guys showed up while they were fighting and started to slay them all. And essentially he said, we're so focused on each other that we ignored the bigger threat, and now we're under attack. And this is only going to get worse. You had, I forget the person's name, but you had somebody who was held captive by ISIS speak in front of the House Intelligence Committee today, and essentially said, Orlando is just the beginning.
Yes.
You have to see what these people are preparing to do, and they're going to perpetuate it. And like I said last week in one of my articles, that this has to do the AR-15 with gun control. What's his name from Connecticut went onto the floor when he was talking about gun control and essentially admitted that, hey, these guys are trained to get an AR-15 as a citizen to come here. And I said, you idiot, you just proved my whole point. I know you're trying to demonize rifles right now because you think they're the cause of this. But what you just said is the scary part. If you don't think that if we hit the magic gun button right now and every gun disappeared, you don't think the drug cartels that can slip 500-600 pounds of drugs over the border a day can't start doing explosives and guns? You're out of your damn mind.
Yeah. Or that they wouldn't go to edged weapons. How many edged weapons are we seeing? Look at overseas, right?
China.
How many edged weapon attacks do we
China.
have where you could perpetuate this?
That's exactly
UC
right.
Merced, right here in our own state.
Yeah.
Yes.
UC Merced.
Downtown London.
Yeah.
3 times.
Yeah. Oklahoma, the beheading of the female employee.
Yes.
Germany just recently, in the bus station in Germany, there was the police officer that was attacked in England not too long ago with the knife. The military personnel, and on and on and on and on and on. It never ends. And the problem that we don't understand in this country, which is why I did the top 10 things less transparent than Omar Martin's purpose for committing the attack in Orlando, is radical Islam is the problem. They are the ones who want to kill us. And I'm sick of hearing about moderate Muslims, because if you're the majority, then why do you have this stop snitching mentality? Right? You saw
God, you just lit a match.
Sorry. But we've seen that all over the place in this country, right? Stop snitching in certain neighborhoods. Don't tell anyone what happened here while kids are dying, literally lying in a pool of their own blood. People saw it. Nobody wants to talk about it. Why? Because this is our community, blah, 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 blah. You're seeing the same thing in the Muslim community right now. Yep. If you guys are the moral majority and you guys really want to fix this, then
join us.
Start manning up a little bit.
Join us.
I'm afraid for my well-being. Well, you know what? So isn't the friggin' firefighter that runs into a burning building, but he does it. So isn't the cop that puts on a badge every day, but they do it. So jet pilots, when they have to go drop bombs, there's a chance they can get shot down. They're afraid too. But part of being an American is sometimes stepping outside of your comfort zone and doing what's best for your fellow citizen. And the Muslim community is not doing that. They'll put their talking heads on television point.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, this is horrible, blah, 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 blah. No, man up or shut up. You either start diming these people out.
If it's not tolerated,
then don't tolerate it.
Right. Well, I'm saying if it's truly not tolerated, not just not tolerated from a figurative standpoint, but if it's literally not tolerated, if these people come into their mosques and they're radical and they identify them and they literally fail to tolerate that, either they report them, they get them out, they shun them, They talk to them about what, in their definition, true Islam is about, and that it is a perversion that they're spouting off,
right?
Then it would shut some of this down,
right?
But if they know they're not going to be dimed out, and they're operating with impunity throughout these mosques and going through, that's a problem.
Well, and I'll let you speak in 1 second, but if all these so-called moderate Muslims are against this, then why is the administration and everybody else having a hard problem attacking the quote-unquote radicalized ones? Because everybody should be on board with this. Everybody should be on board with this.
Maybe because they don't exist.
Right.
Which is why we have the Redactdictator Obama.
Nice segue.
You like that? Redactdictator. I like that term.
I like that term too. Redactdictator.
Right. So report came out on some of the transcripts came out that DOJ released on the Orlando killer's phone calls.
Yes.
During the killing, and lo and behold, there were things that were redacted from it.
Which is
Obama redacted.
Are you serious?
Oh yeah.
No, I don't believe
that.
No. Stop, you silly self.
They edited the transcript. That
I don't believe that.
Oh yes,
you're wrong.
So everybody knows that during these calls there were reports that this individual pledged allegiance to ISIS, and that he talked about praise be to God, and he'll let him know that he did the shootings, and so he's talking about this in a call to 911 dispatchers, but the references to Islam and to pledging allegiance to ISIS were redacted in the release.
And instead of putting Allah, they put God.
Yeah.
What is this, like Spanglish? All of a sudden you're going to start translating every other word in English on this?
Right. Now here's that wouldn't be, I mean, that's kind of scary.
Arabish?
But there was another report that came out. There was a Department of Homeland Security report, and the report was on the radicalization of among American youths.
Yes. And
how to deal with this problem.
Yes.
And in this report, DHS, federal government, gotta love them, right? The modern day potential like SS or potential national police force. It's worked out so well in every other country. Anyways, I digress. But the Department of Homeland Security came out and they've banned terms such as jihad.
Yes.
And
they also banned the word criminal.
Well, yes.
Well, you don't want to insult anyone.
I know.
Yeah.
Thank God you guys are in keeping with my thoughts.
So, yeah, they want to, the department's CVE, this is a quote from one of the reports, the efforts are an attempt to protect our nation's young people from extremists who prey upon the millennial generation. The department must refrain from conversation to reflect this reality and design a robust program around the protection of our youth, which must include predator awareness and an understanding of radicalization. In doing so, our citizens will be better equipped for this threat. However, the report also rejects use of the term of radical or not radical, but of jihad and Sharia, and says that they want to reject an us versus them mentality by getting rid of the Islamic language in, quote, countering violent extremism programs.
Right.
Thank God. Thank God there's sensible people in D.C. wearing sensible shoes.
Yeah. The report says, quote, they're going to reject religiously charged terminology and problematic positioning by using plain meaning American English. What is problematic positioning? Because that sounds to me like it's controlling the narrative.
Yes. Well, and it's so funny you should mention that,
because who?
When has this administration ever controlled a narrative before when a group of Muslims have attacked Americans? Hold on, let me look at this picture of Chris Paranto on the wall for a second.
You can't see this in chat, but my hand is up. My hand is up.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
You.
Do you know how you defeat ISIS?
Kill them.
No.
Oh, you hug them?
You're on to something. 2 words.
Love.
Love.
Do you love
and
what else?
Tolerate.
No.
Come on.
Better
now.
yet. Better.
Love and
compassion.
Compassion.
That's
You know
what
what I
she
wish?
said.
I wish
Loretta Lynch said that today.
I wish
or
we
yesterday.
had. Oh, that's right. We do. We do have an attorney general that said you can defeat ISIS with love and compassion.
You just ruined my night by reminding me of that.
Oh, what she forgot to say is love, compassion, and a J-Dam.
No, but you're 100% right. This is the narrative that keeps
This
getting pushed.
is our attorney
Jobs.
general.
In the chat room, somebody said jobs. Agador says jobs is another way to defeat them. But you're right. This is the narrative that we're being pushed with, right? And then it's funny when the entire internet, including myself and others, went apeshit over the redaction of, wait a minute. First of all, we all kind of know what's in there anyhow, but we want to see his words specifically. Oh, well, that was an oversight. We're releasing the whole thing. It was an oversight. Because we want to be transparent. And then when Loretta Lynch got a question today as to who ordered this, because we've seen things redacted or left out intentionally, who ordered this? Oh, we don't want to get into the specifics, but it's all been released.
I'm guessing.
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
No,
You think it was Obama?
I'm not sure.
I say go up.
Yeah.
I say go up.
But here's the other question. Why did she get thrown under the bus in the span of one day?
Because she's expendable.
Why did Susan Rice get thrown under the bus? Hey,
well, she was a useful tool. That's correct.
Hey, we've already given to you. Now you have to take it on the chin for us. You're the Attorney General. This is part of your job. If not, we'll find a reason to get rid of you. You think it's not pressure politics? It's all pressure politics, right? She's not an Attorney General for the Department of Justice. She's the Attorney General for Barack Obama.
Yeah.
And
she's certainly not the Attorney General for the United States.
Absolutely not. And this is why I was not up in the air about her. I had my opinions about her, but it concerned me about Hillary's case coming up. And I had hoped, based on everything we'd seen in the investigation so far, that they were going to kind of get forced to do the right thing. But after I see Orlando and how they've handled this, including the DOJ, when she comes out and says it may never be extremely transparent as to what his specific motive was. And I said, you know what? They're not going to prosecute her. Because if they're willing to play this game with 49 lives and 43 others injured, if they're willing to play this politic game for that, then they don't give a damn. They just don't. And they keep putting it in our face that they don't give a damn. And people on the left, these damn barking seals on the left, just keep following suit.
Did you say barking seals?
Yeah.
Oh.
And it's pathetic.
Well, here's the dead, putrefying Mexican water rat in the punch bowl, so to speak.
That gave me a nice image.
For people that don't know, I've heard about some certain directors. And one of the best things that I've heard in a long time is that Comey is one of the most honorable and forthright directors that this country has had in quite some time. And Comey, though you may not know it, has already fought Obama on a number of fronts. One of them was having to remove workplace violence from Major Nidal Hassan.
Yes.
And shot down that meme. So here's what I think may occur. Though the abominations grow greater day by day, today it was revealed that Hillary's server, they had no software on it, no security software on it, and that was disabled. So it just gets worse and worse. And though the FBI, God bless them, their ROEs are getting more stupid by the day, and their agents really, really, really do want to do good. They want to do well, and I believe in the trustworthiness of Comey. Should this go to the DOJ, and it will go to the DOJ, and my guess is that it will be overturned by Obama because he will tell his little talking puppet what to do, and she will decide that she is not going to prosecute. But here's what I predict will occur. You'll see some you will see some resignations from the FBI, but the information that's out there, the true information, is going to get leaked.
Yes, it will be released.
It will be leaked.
I agree. One way or the other, the public will hear it if she's prosecuted or not.
It will come to the forefront.
So
I believe that. I believe in the honorability of Comey. I believe he is one of the finest directors they've had in quite some time.
And if that's the case, I'm not a fan of the FBI. I despise the FBI on many different levels. Nothing personal against James Comey or individual agents. I know a couple. I'm not a fan of the FBI overall. That being said, if Comey, and I'm not saying he's not a man of honor, I believe he is. But if why would he not go to a grand jury and have a grand jury hand down an indictment and just take Loretta Lynch right out of the equation?
That's a good question.
Just take her out of the equation.
I think even he has limitations. But it's all political. It's all politics,
right?
Well, but you've seen...
and then if everything does leak out, what's the likelihood the Republicans will appoint a special prosecutor?
Yeah. That needs to go.
Look, we're up against a break. I know. We're up against a break. However, let's hold that thought. Let's come back and revisit because the next segment is Trump v. Hilldog. There was a brouhaha today, but I want to continue with this segment if you're good with it.
Yeah, that's fine. We'll be back right here on the Sackheads Radio Show.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Breaking news. According to the latest report coming out of SHR Media, a merchandise store to support both the Reaver of Common Sense and SHR Media has just been unleashed to the general public. Be forewarned that this site can be contagious and numerous items can be purchased to support the best news programming. Go to Reaver.one website and click on the store link to check out the merchandise.
Hello, I'm Matt, a student at Hillsdale College. Here is Hillsdale President Larry Arnn on the continuing relevance of the Constitution.
Many argue today that the Constitution is outdated because it addresses problems peculiar to the 18th century. Some parts of the Constitution do read rather quaintly. Consider the injunction against titles of nobility in Article 1, Section 9 of the Constitution. But is that so outdated? The purpose of the injunction is to prevent the government granting special privileges to some for partisan reasons. This strikes at the heart of the rule of law. The crony capitalism so common today is a place where the government bestows favors and tax dollars on some businesses to give them a leg up over others. This is exactly the kind of thing the Constitution was meant to prohibit. The Constitution is not so outdated after all.
This Constitution Minute was brought to you by Hillsdale College. To join the national conversation on the Constitution, go to constitutionminute.com.
Times are dark. The people misled by corrupt politicians, lied to by establishment media, and deceived by the false messages of Islam. A nation in confusion needs a guide. It needs a man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me on Spreaker, SHR Media, High Plains Talk Radio, Live Rebooting Liberty, and YouTube for a unique brand of commentary on the unpleasant blind guy. Because truth is not always pleasant.
In a world controlled by corrupt politicians.
You got a business. You didn't build that.
A team of ordinary men emerge from the ashes to give voice to the voiceless and hope to the hopeless. Sackhead Sean.
Dude, I'm not saying cough with stupid bro.
Sackhead Clint.
All good friends of ours usually show up drunk.
Also starring Sacco as the producer.
I'm a little bit drunk, 'cause I'm drinking.
They are the Sackheads Radio Show. Every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific on shrmedia.com.
Beware, the Jersey Takeover is here. Every Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can catch the Reverb Common Sense Show, hosted by Jersey Joe, right here on shrmedia.com and highplainsdailynews.com. Only Jersey can deliver hell like no one else, so consider this your fair warning.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And we're back here on the Sackheads Radio Show live on the SHR Media Network.
How do you do that? You transitioned mid-sentence and thought in a conversation with us off air, pushed a button, completely switched gears, and got your professional voice on.
Because he is godlike.
Damn good. I am damn good at this.
There are lightning bolts come issuing forth from his fingertips.
That's because I didn't get a smoke during the break. Now, it's my lighter. So before we went to break, we were talking about Comey. We were talking about potential indictment with the Hilldog. Will it or won't it? We've had a couple theories thrown around. Let's start parlaying that into the election. And BZ, you said earlier, sir, I couldn't agree more. That
did you notice?
Did you
notice the pregnant
I did because I was actually going to look up. I was looking up something.
It took almost 30 seconds.
I looked up
between. I couldn't agree.
More.
and like I kind of glanced up at you, BZ, and then I like looked over at Sean. Like, are you out of your freaking mind right now?
No, I just couldn't agree.
Yeah.
I couldn't agree more with the statement you said. There's never been a more beatable candidate than the Hilldog. She's quite literally facing indictment, potentially. The amount of inappropriate, borderline criminal activity that she's engaged in for years that we've all speculated about. But now you're starting to see actual hard evidence. The Gossamer files are being released, and you're starting to see a lot of things in that.
Wasn't Gossamer the monster from Looney
Tunes?
Yes,
I'm so glad you found.
Did he keep file? Like, what is
files?
Such an interesting monster.
You also have Julian Assange at WikiLeaks, who says that they're going to release some pretty, like, almost 100% slam dunk evidence that will convict her. Now, I know Julian Assange is very self-promoting and says a lot of things like this and never comes up.
Bullshit.
And
he's like Trump. He's all about himself.
But the language that he's using, it's almost one of those things, if he doesn't produce something, even if it's minimal, it will destroy his credibility that he has with a lot of people. So I think you will get something out of WikiLeaks. And now you have all of those things starting to stack up onto the Hilldog. And she had some amazing quotes today, talking about one of them. Oh, gosh. There was so many horrible quotes out of her today that I'm trying to remember exactly which ones I wanted to talk about, rather. But you're seeing the Hilldog starting to sweat a little bit. And you see her becoming very short. She's trying to adapt Trump-like tactics in her attacks, which I think is pretty impressive, considering it's Hillary Clinton. She's talking about how she's in the primary right now. That was something she kept saying too. In the general, rather, she kept referring to the primary like it's said and done, which must have pissed off the Bernie people something fierce.
Mm-hmm. It's like Hugh Hewitt said. Hugh Hewitt said recently that the Russians, and by dint of the logical extension of that, the Russians and the Chinese and the North Koreans now own Hillary Clinton because they have gotten into her server. The State Department staffers, they wrestled for weeks in December 2010 over a serious technical problem with then-Secretary Hillary Clinton's home email server, causing them to temporarily disable security features that left the server more vulnerable to hackers, according to emails released Wednesday. Every day there's a brand new abrogation of Hillary Clinton, and yet she still stands.
Yes.
And the reason she still stands is because she is buttressed by millions of dollars from George Soros and other persons on the left, and by every means, make, and model of what I term the American media maggots supporting her. You want to get good news about America, ladies and gentlemen? Go to the UK Daily Mail. Go to the UK Telegraph. Look at UK media. We haven't even talked about Brexit. Tomorrow, oh my God, what a day tomorrow is going to be. But Hillary Clinton, easily the most beatable, corrupt vertical biped on the face of the planet, and yet a doddering 185-year-old socialist fought her tooth and nail and almost won.
Well, and
except for the cheating part.
Except for the cheating part.
Except for the cheating part. Well, and some of her things that she's even throwing out in her statements, where she said today, she's talking about Donald Trump and unaccountable money, and I said, this is coming from Hillary Clinton, who's even going to bring unaccountable money to the you really want to have that argument? Because we're up to what, almost 500 million from Muslim countries who kill gays and beat women. You have the Russians with the uranium. I mean, we can keep talking about the Clinton Foundation and unaccountable money that keeps pouring into Hillary. Why would you even go down that road? But she doesn't have a choice. And that's how she's playing rope-a-dope right now. She's hoping Donald Trump will punch himself out. And I don't even think he started to unload yet.
No.
And it's only going to get worse.
Well, he's still fighting this anti-Trump movement that's happening too.
His speech today, I think, changed some minds.
I hope so, because look, there's not that I was a huge Donald Trump fan. Don't get me wrong, but like you said earlier, SCOTUS is huge.
It's massive.
It's going to be huge.
It is the hinging point for the future of this entire nation.
Look, and if this anti-Trump conservative movement gets going, and as a result, it splits that vote, and Hillary's going to get elected. Guess what, folks? This anti-Trump movement, you may really dislike him, but your hatred is blinding you, in my opinion, to what's going to be good for this country, because we will lose SCOTUS. We will lose our country. But they're trying, these anti-Trump delegates are trying to get some of the party rules changed to include a conscience clause that would allow them to vote their conscience. Well, wait a second. If that's the case, then what's the frickin' point of the primary?
Yeah, right.
If you're going to override, whether you like it or not, people spoke.
Right.
And you have an obligation.
They don't like it because, as you pointed out earlier, they created Trump, and they're speaking against the GOP en masse.
Yes.
That's
but
why.
So if you're going to change party rules, then what's the point of even holding a primary?
Right.
But that's basically one big poll at that point.
Yeah.
Right. It's not binding.
Yeah, save your money and buy a jacuzzi.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And then Paul Ryan can sit there and lift weights in the jacuzzi all he wants.
Right.
No, I absolutely agree. And it's really funny to watch the difference in how each candidate is handling themselves. A lot of people on the left are essentially like, all right, Bernie, it's time. You fought a good fight. We respect you, whatever, but it's time to go. And on the other hand, you have the exact opposite happening, where we have a nominee who's got enough votes, and everyone's like, oh, wait, what about all these other guys? These other guys want to get back in the mix too, and we could still get one of them. The simple fact of the matter is, no matter, even if you had magic, and Ronald Reagan might be the only person who could come to that stage right now and win an election. Outside of that, none of these candidates can do it anymore.
Nope.
You have to go, and if we lose because of it, then our party learns a lesson. Listen, I don't want to lose to Hillary. I don't want to lose 3-4 SCOTUS spots to the Democrats.
And you will.
And you will.
And you will.
You'll see Gator Gins. She will retire almost immediately to guarantee a spot, right? What's her?
Scalia's spot will be filled.
Scalia's spot will be filled. What's his name? The big lib judge. I can't think of his name off the top of my head. But he's going to be of an age where he's probably going to retire in a few years. And then a lot of people are saying that Clarence Thomas has been talking about retirement.
That's the next one that I've heard to go, is Clarence Thomas.
So you have 4, and then there's always that variable, right? You could have somebody quit. There could be that weird sort of whatever. So you have this potential. Hillary, like you said, hands down, she should be annihilated in the general election.
And that's so sad. The GOP can't do it.
They can't get out of their own way right now. You have idiots like, I know I hate to talk about him, but Lindsey Graham, who essentially says, oh, I just might leave the party. Well, you weren't a conservative anyhow, so go.
Bye.
But that's
bye, Felicia.
That's the where we're at right now. And what they're not talking about is how many people Trump is actually reaching out to and get to show up and vote. Listen, it won't be huge for regular standards, but as far as the Hispanic vote, I think he's getting a lot more than people give him credit for.
News aggregators today, I go to a particular news aggregator whose name I shall not mention right now. At the top it says, 40% of Bernie Sanders supporters will not go for Hillary.
Yes.
Yep. That's
big
huge.
number.
That's a large number.
Right.
And she doesn't have the youth.
No.
Sanders has the youth vote.
Neither one of them has youth
An
personally.
octogenarian with the youth vote.
Yes.
What the hell? That's the Democrat Party. The party of people that are different, young, vibrant, not white. Really? Wrong.
I love the fact that the group of under 30s that are hip and everything that don't like old people. Oh, you old Republicans, blah blah blah, this, that, and the other thing. They're voting for the 80-year-old socialist who owns a $100,000 car and a mansion.
Yeah,
you morons are complete morons.
And a hot wife.
And
the schnozberries taste like schnozberries.
Hot wife award, I think, for the old guy goes to Biden. I think we can all agree on that, right?
Trump.
He has a nice car.
But Biden's older, and I think,
we haven't had a Dare Biden segment in a while.
We haven't had a Dare Biden. Joe Biden on my 10 things that were less transparent made number 3, and it was Joe Biden's sexuality. And my proof was it's pretty easy to see what sexuality is. Put him to a woman between the ages of 18 and a million and let the magic happen.
Right.
There's no question as to what Joe can be a lot of things, but he likes himself a woman.
And a member of the Hair Plugs Are Us Club.
Yeah, I'll be there soon. I can't judge him for that.
I am there.
I just want to drink with the guy.
I do too. I'll tell you what.
You have to admit it. Joe Biden is vastly entertaining.
Oh,
I wish he would have run just for the material.
I'll tell you what. If he had run,
he would have won.
He would have won.
I bet he could have kicked Hillary to the curb.
Oh, he would have destroyed her.
I think for no other reason than the emo issue of his having lost his son recently.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Very sorry. God bless him for that.
Yes.
Very sorry, but he could have pulled it out.
I think he would have beat Trump.
I wouldn't disagree with that.
I think he would have beat Trump. I think.
But here's the thing, and we all talk about Joe Biden's politics, and we've agreed on this a million times before. The fact that he didn't run, knowing, and Joe's not stupid. He's a politician. He says some goofy things and some out-of-line things.
But he's not stupid.
Especially politically. He chose, essentially, to not take a nomination, because he would have had that nomination, I agree, to care for his family after the loss of Beau. And that alone, we joke about Joe Biden all the time, but the man got a lot of credit for me for that, because
absolutely
it is not something that's vastly reported. A lot of people have forgot about that, but that's because Joe's more of an old school guy.
He is, in a way. He kind of reminds me of Bill Clinton. Of all the people that are out right now, who is the most popular politician in the United States?
It's Bill, right?
It's Bill Clinton.
Yeah.
More popular than Hillary, more popular than Trump, more popular than anybody else. One of the great things, people don't remember, one of the great things is his welfare reform in 1996. That was a wonderful thing.
That he worked with Gingrich on.
He actually reached across the aisle. And here's the thing about Biden. If Biden had gone in, I bet Joe was smart enough to realize that he could kind of pull another Clinton. If there was somebody that actually could possibly reach across the aisle and do some good things, it actually may have been Joe Biden.
Yeah. I agree with that. And Newt Gingrich, Newt Gingrich was a big part of that also.
Yes.
You had somebody on the Republican side, and that's why I think Trump would be very wise if he chose Newt Gingrich as a running mate. But Gingrich was a very astute politician. There's people that don't like him as personality-wise, but that man knew how to get things done, and he worked across the aisle with Clinton, and they were able to accomplish some things. And Bill Clinton, if you remember, right at the first, he had a lot of pushback because he was pretty liberal in his politics, and then he hired, wasn't it Morris?
Dick Morris.
Dick Morris. He hired Dick Morris to come in and really shaped that and got him to work, and he got some things done. You can say whatever you want about Bill, but he got some things done, and I agree with you. I think that Biden could have done something very, very similar to that.
Bill Clinton was the ultimate politician. I heard him described one time to me by somebody who was actually there when he came into a room. They typified him as when Bill Clinton walks into a room, he sucks all the air out of it, and people naturally gravitate to him. He's an individual like that, but he's also very smart. He's educated, but he's intelligent in terms of politics. And I think Joe Biden might have been smart enough to know that when I need to heal and there actually needs to be bipartisanship, he may have actually been able to do that. Hillary Clinton will not do that.
Well, and it's so funny because you're starting to see the other book that's really starting to come to light is Clinton Cash is a big one.
Yes.
But also the Secret Service agent's depiction of her.
Which the media has done its very level best to completely stamp into the dust and eradicate.
But I always tell this story that I have a friend of mine who is a doctor, and she is a gigantic liberal, huge liberal, who told me a story when she was in D.C. doing her internship. She had a friend who worked for the Clintons and was able to go to a couple of Clinton parties. That's why they were in the White House. And she saw Hillary behind the scenes and said, she is evil. She is evil and mean, treats everybody around her like trash, including Bill and everybody else. She is just the person you close your eyes and you think Hillary Clinton is exactly who she is. And it's amazing to me how long that stayed under wraps, but she's not going to change now.
No.
I mean, you talk about in that book that she threw a book at a Secret Service agent's head. Think about that for a second. Think about who she is. So, again, we go back to the most beatable candidate that's ever been out there.
In the history that I can think of most recently.
And you know what? Part of me thinks that Joe didn't run, obviously, for his family, but I think somewhere in the back of his head, Joe's a little sick of the progressives, too, because Joe's a more blue dog Democrat.
I think he was obedient. He was given, it was decided in the DNC that it was Hillary's time. She was due, air quotes. Mm-hmm. And I think he took one for the team. And that's the last time I think that he has the ability to go in. You know, and you gentlemen tell me if you're thinking this way too. I used to believe maybe 5 or 10 years ago that I had an idea, some kind of a grip on where I thought this country was going, that I could predict in some sort of a certain form where it was going to go. And the kabuki theater and the theater of the absurd gets more absurd every day, and I really do have no idea where this country is heading.
I equate it
because
to
it changes every damn
day. I think that I think I see very clearly where this country's going. I think we're very rapidly approaching a fork in the road. I think there used to be a time in this country where we knew where we wanted to go as a country, whether it was at the founding of our country, whether it was during Reconstruction, whether it was during World War II, where we knew where we wanted to go as a country, but we may have disagreed on how we get there.
Exactly.
But the goal was the same, right? We know we want to be independent from British rule, but we're going to differ on how we go about getting there. We know we want a Bill of Rights, but we're going to differ about what that looks like. We know we want a Constitution over an Articles of Confederation, but we're going to differ what that looks like. We know we wanted to defeat communism, but we have different ways of doing that. We're not there anymore. We are no longer headed to the same place as a country. Socialism is being outwardly touted. It's being outwardly touted in our universities, which is in direct contrast, 180 degrees from where the conservatives want to take it in terms of economy, in terms of self-defense and defense of our homes and our neighborhoods. With ISIS is among us, we have two completely opposing views. And don't get me wrong, the parties have always been opposite, but our country is at a point where we're heading two completely different directions. The Constitution is an old changing document. The government appoints rights, and we're going to restrict and control, and you're going to do what we say. And the Constitution is something that's old and doesn't really matter anymore. Like the state representative in California that made the comment, this is California, the Constitution really doesn't apply here. And the other group that says,
on the other hand, he's right.
That's right. But for an elected official to say that, why is he in office?
Right.
Still, he took an oath.
No, these are entirely different times with entirely disparate elements.
Yes, and
we don't have any more unifiers.
We don't.
We have dividers.
But that's my point, right? We're going in two totally opposite directions. That this country is going to either be forced back together because you have one faction or another. Look, and we may be to a point where we can't come back together. If the conservatives get elected and the Supreme Court upholds the rule of the Constitution and everything else, and the far left decides that they really want socialism and so they're going to break away, or their civil unrest is going to increase, or it's going to be increased violence or whatever it is because they disagree with somebody, that's one way. Or you're going to have another group where Supreme Court's going to start shutting rights down, shutting religious liberty down, shutting 2A down, and you're going to have states as a whole that are going to say,
We're done.
We're done.
Yep.
And we tried this once before, and we're going to try it again. And we, as the Declaration of Independence says that if you no longer represent us, I have a right to establish a new government for myself, and so that's what I'm going to do. And states may do that. And folks, if a state does that, you may have the argument was, well, no, you can't secede because that was settled with the Civil War. No, it wasn't.
Nope.
There's a reason nobody was ever tried and convicted of treason.
Right.
You have to Lincoln's own words, where he talked about the silver apple and the golden frame, or the golden frame and the silver apple, where you have to have the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence and read them together and interpret them. And if the Declaration of Independence says that when a government becomes too oppressive and the people as a whole and their representatives have a right to cast that off and establish a new government that represents them, that's what the South did.
Yes.
And since you take that, and that's what they did, and you have to apply that to the Constitution, there's no treason there.
No.
And so the question wasn't settled. If it was valid then, it's just as valid today.
Now. Yes, I agree.
And I'm not saying that I hope that for our country. I'm not saying that I wish that for our country. But you could apply that to the right as well as the left. If California said, you know what, this government no longer represents us, it could happen the other way also.
Well, listen, to go back to your question you had earlier, you said you thought you had a grip, but where do you see the country going? I equate it kind of like a cow who gets sucked up in a tornado. You know eventually the cow's going to come out. You just don't know when and where, right?
Well, we are so terribly striated in our thinking, and leftists are attempting to do that on a daily basis. The U.S. Constitution, you have to think of it in terms of positive versus negative rights. The current Constitution frames much of what we value in terms of what the government cannot do. The government cannot engage in unreasonable searches and seizures. It can't inflict cruel and unusual punishment. So it's the government that's restricted. That's a negative right. Leftists want to ascribe positive rights to the Constitution, and that's not how it was written. That's how not it was framed. The individual has a right not to be subject to various terms and so forth. And so in our current Constitution, it doesn't guarantee so-called rights to such things as housing, clothing, food, jobs, rights that place upon the state to obtain the resources for the citizens to pay for them.
But there was a Constitution that did have all those rights enshrined in them. Was the Soviet Constitution.
Well, listen,
they did.
Now you're just splitting hairs, comrade.
Well, pull it up. Look at the Soviet Union's Constitution.
I agree with
right
you.
Right to education, right to a job, right to housing.
Well, and that was the other thing, too. And let me pull up, because Hillary made a lot of those statements today when she was talking about college debt. And all of a sudden she was saying that, I want to put new taxes and ask the millionaires to pay. I want to ask the millionaires to pay more and pass a tax that does that. I said, well, that's not asking, that's telling. She also talked about the economy being a rigged game, and I said, wait a minute.
Then don't regulate it.
Right. It's rigged because government had oversight into it. And then she wants to persuade companies to profit share with employees. She used persuade. On top of the livable wage, so they own part of the company. I said, well, isn't that socialism when the government's forcing to pay and then you want to move down? And then she's essentially saying free college for everybody. And I said, anyone see what this bitch is saying?
Yeah. Yeah. So look, here's the answer to that.
2 minutes.
Here's the answer to that. Don't go to college, be an entrepreneur, start your own small business, network, and don't have any employees.
Right. And you'll be fine. You'll be absolutely fine.
Right? And there are businesses where you can do that.
Yes.
Be an entrepreneur. Consult. Be an entrepreneur. Be an online blogger. Do something and make your own money and generate your own.
Be a plumber. Be a plumber. Own a plumbing business.
Yes.
Make $500,000 a year if you're a damn good plumber.
Hey, a plumber that is not on crank is a rare individual. Sorry to plumbers. But
you know what? We're going to end it there. I'm going to say.
No. I'd like to end it with this quote from Alexander Hamilton, if I could, and then you guys do whatever you want. If the federal government should overpass the just bounds of its authority and make a tyrannical use of its powers, the people whose creature it is must appeal to the standard they have formed and take such measures to redress the injury done to the Constitution as the exigency may suggest and prudence justify.
It's a damn good quote.
How did we get here in the first place? Leaving Europe.
Yep.
What happens tomorrow? Oh,
Brexit.
My. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, all of a sudden England doesn't want to be a part of something bigger. It's funny how that's changed. A couple hundred years ago, they fought to hold on to it. Now they're fighting to get out.
And what do many of the people in Europe want now?
Economic
Thanks
freedom.
to Hillary Clinton,
Free market.
Syria, ISIS. Oh, no. Their own version of the Second Amendment.
Yes, absolutely.
They do.
Absolutely. Agador in the chat room said he'd still prefer we ended with the plumber thing. So,
where's Joe when we need him?
Folks, that's it for the Sackheads Radio Show, live on this 22nd of June, 2016.
Thank you, gentlemen, for having me
BZ,
here.
sir, thank you so
Thank
much.
you, thank you.
It was an absolute pleasure. Sackhead Clint, thank you, sir.
No, thank you. Hey, I want to take a vote real quick.
Yeah.
Do we make BZ an honorary sackhead?
I think so.
We've done this very few times in the future.
It doesn't happen often, but I think we should bestow.
I agree.
2 out of 3 vote. All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? BZ, you can't vote against yourself. It doesn't.
No, I didn't vote against myself.
Oh, there's still 2 against 1.
Yeah, still 2 against 1.
All right, I guess I have to put my hand down.
We'll see you next Wednesday right here at 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 on the East Coast. Check out all the great shows on SHR Media. Make sure you check out our partner at High Plains Pundit, bloviatingzeppelin.com. Go read, learn.
.net.
.net. Go read and learn.
Are you kidding me? Were you trying to send people off the track on purpose?
The best late-night conservative talk show in America, Jackassery Radio. And listen, there are no people better on the air to give you the best in conservative talk than Sackhead Sean and Sackhead Clint. And we're working on the immigration papers for a certain other guy who happens to work there, too. For those who are tuning in around the world to the best in late-night conservative talk, Jackassery Radio.
Hack news. Hack news.
Radio.
Hack news. Hack news.
Radio.
The best late-night conservative talk show in America. In America.
In America.
And in this web was a large, I'm pretty sure it was the biggest spider I've ever seen.